right, what's up, 42 Strong? We are into week 6 of our 6-week challenge. So this is the final week of our 6-week challenge. So sitting here talking with Andy, we figured this will be a good time to kind of recap the overall challenge, talk about some of the reasons why we created this challenge and why we set it up in the way that we did, and give you some tips about the post-challenge life. Because the last thing we want you to do is, at the end of this 6 weeks, forget everything that we did over the last 6 weeks. So, Andy, to get a quick little recap of the challenge, where do you want to jump in with that? Just overall, like why we did the challenge, or you just want to kind of talk on what we've learned so far throughout the challenge?
Yeah, I mean, I think talking about the reason why we do challenges has value because it's kind of baked into our philosophy here at BCI. There's two things that we talk about. One is these simple habits that, if done consistently, are the key to completely transforming your health and your body. Those habits are the very thing that we've installed into this challenge. So you should know exactly what I'm talking about. The second thing, and while we didn't talk about it in the orientation this time, we've talked about it many times before, and I'm realizing this group should hear this, and any new group that goes through the challenge. In The Comfort Crisis, which is a book that we read, they talk about in Japan this idea of having an annual misogi, where it's a really hard and challenging event that you don't know if you can finish or not, but you submit yourself to that as a renewal every year to prove to yourself that you're capable of overcoming hard things. So I was kind of so moved by that concept, it really solidified this idea of intentional suffering intermittently throughout the year. So instead of just one big thing, the way we look at this is if we do 3 to 4 challenges, or if you participate in 3 to 4 challenges a year, that is like your misogi, because it is very challenging to lock in for 6 weeks and do these 5 things if they're not already installed into your life. But what we've started to realize, and again what this challenge is built around, is habit formation. There used to be this kind of rule that like if you can do anything for 21 days, it'll become a habit. Well, I think anybody that's done something for 21 days knows it's a little more complex than that. Mm-hmm. And even the new research says that it's 77 days. But I'm not banking on one 77-day run to install these things in my life. 42 Strong is 42 days of you attempting to be perfect. And like Tate said, we hope that at the end of this challenge, you're going to take our advice on how to get the most out of things moving forward. And what we tell people is we want you to try to hold these habits together. And we know there'll be a little bit of an attrition that happens, but usually that happens after about 2 to 3 weeks of being on the challenge or after the challenge closes. So if we just do some simple math here, like let's say you keep it together for 8 weeks, 2 weeks post-challenge, you do 90% good, 95% good, and you do that 4 times a year. That's 32 out of 52 weeks where you are locked in and focused on installing these habits. I would suggest that is a much better way to start to rewire how you eat, how you train, how you look at fitness and activity as a whole. That's a better strategy than just trying to do a 77-day run and hope that it somehow sticks in your brain. So these challenges, I think they're not really treated this way though. The way that they're treated is kind of like flash in the pan, marketing things to get people quick results. And I never liked that way of using challenges. No. That's why we said like, this isn't the biggest loser. This is really like who can be the most consistent with simple habits that have a huge ROI. And again, you do this multiple times a year and it really starts to reshape everything. And that's why over the past 2 years, we've been so adamant about building these challenges into our adult fitness clients' lives. They always know they have one coming up. And on that note, we'll have one coming up after the summer as well that I would highly encourage you to participate in. I think from now until then, the goal is to hold your habits together, create standards. Like if you're not going to hit 10,000 steps a day, okay, cool. But what are you going to commit to? Can you commit to 7,500? And if 7,500 is an improvement from your baseline when you started this challenge, that's still great, right? You don't need to eat on the manual, right? You don't need to eat the nutrition manual exactly, but it wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I've heard a few people say that this might be one of their favorite meal plans they've done so far, and awesome. This will be very easy for them. I mean, I was talking to my mom about that this weekend. And there's been a few other people that have said, yo, this meal plan is pretty solid. I can see myself eating this stuff forever.
Yeah, and if you've done multiple challenges, you got multiple meal plans to pull from. So it's a great way to kind of pull from those things to, create your way when you're not on the challenge. Even the reading part, like this is we're going to continue to provide value through, email and social media, and this podcast, me and Tate are going to continue to expand. But the more you read about health and fitness, the more you read the right stuff, I should say, that full immersion concept kicks in. Like you're fully immersed in something, you're learning about it, you're participating inside of it. And that's how you get the most benefit overall.
Yeah. And kind of on the Misogis, because, we talk about challenging yourself, putting yourself in difficult situations, because you learn a lot about yourself throughout that. And I know, at least through my group and through conversations in the gym, I've heard a lot of people talk about, I realized I can't do this type of stuff in the evening because this, and that. I realized I have to bucket one of my walks in at lunch, otherwise my 10,000 steps aren't happening. Yeah. So you may not have got your check mark that day, but you have learned throughout that day, through that difficult situation, hey, this does not work. I need to relook at my schedule, relook at the way I do things so I can figure out a way to do this.
And that is so important.
Yes.
I want to skip over that real quick, because the only way that isn't a win for you is if you choose to not act on the lesson. Mm-hmm. So like if the next day you still don't build a walk-in, knowing that you're not going to hit 10,000 steps unless you do, that is something that you need to look at. And if there's patterns of that in how you approach nutrition, exercise, sleep, that's something for you to be aware of. I think that is a very human thing. I struggle with it, just to be clear. But I don't allow myself to go too far down that road without checking myself.
No.
I'll notice these patterns of behavior in myself at times, and it's like, wait a minute. I see what I'm doing. I need to stop doing that for these reasons. And it might take me another mess up or two.
Yeah.
But the faster you can close that gap on getting things back in the right direction, or in the direction that serves you the best, that's how you really change behavior over the long haul.
Yeah, and kind of reminds me a couple podcasts ago when we talked about the lens of the parent.
Yes.
So if my kid is failing a class, am I just going to be like, oh man, he just can't do well at math?
Or just keep doing what you're doing.
Just keep trying hard, kid. Yeah. Or are you going to be like, no, let's look at your schedule. Let's find a tutor. We're going to have to do homework together at night. You find a way to help your kid get through that stuff. Like, let's start looking at ourselves that way. Yeah. And start trying to coach ourselves the same way we would our parents.
Well, it's easier to solve other people's problems than our own. Mm-hmm. But that's why I'm so honest about my own shortcomings, because I think at times people that attend the gym, they might look at me or you and just think that it's like really easy for us to like just eat on target all the time and always train hard. It's like, nah, it's not really what we do. But consistency wise, we are going to train every day. Consistency wise, like we are going to eat probably better than 90% of the population, but we can still fall victim to overeating and choosing the wrong foods. But if you look at it, things on the macro out of the whole year, we're more on target than off target, and that's what we're trying to impress into the lives of our clients. So it's not about perfection. It's about getting better. That idea of like 1% better, every day. Yeah. I really like that,
because I definitely understand a busy schedule, and I know all our coaches do, and I know a lot of our adults and whatnot have crazy schedules, so we understand that. But luckily, we hold each other accountable. Our coaching staff is pretty hard on each other, like in a good way, on making sure we're keeping ourselves together, whether it's a periodic coaches challenge or, hey, no, we're doing this challenge, or I'm going to challenge this member during this challenge. There's something to keep us going, because it's like Andy said, it gets difficult for us sometimes too, but it's just about the long-term ingraining that daily process, the daily habit, that it just becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah, and I'd have you consider this. I think a lot of people realize this after the pandemic, is that sometimes your proximity to something actually makes it harder for you to do it, right? Like we're in a gym all day long. One of the more powerful things that you can do is change your environment, right? So when you leave your house in the morning, you're making a statement. I'm going to work out. And during the pandemic, people really struggled to go from their kitchen to their garage.
I bet you there's a lot of dust on some home equipment
there is.
Right now.
Because it's the same environment, right? And like we spend so much time in the gym, it's like it's the same environment. And sometimes it's not very appealing to be like, all right, on my only hour I have a break today, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to work out. That's not what naturally bubbles up in your mind. But when you know how important it is to lead from the front and live your values and do these things, you got a little bit of leverage over yourself. And that, I think, is the harder part for most adult fitness clients to like bolt onto, is like, where do I get the leverage? And what I would tell you is that the way that you do life has a lot to do with how your family did life. That's just how humans are. And I just want you to ask yourself, or does the way that you live your life give your family, children, friends, people close to you, an opportunity to live that way as well? Because if you are intermittent with your commitment to these things, they're seeing that, like, that's how you do it. But if they see you commit to these simple, minimal habits all the time, and you live this way, it'll start to shape their behavior and their beliefs too. And I think there's some real power in that you can use to leverage yourself in the right direction when things get hard.
So yeah, basically post-challenge, big thing is let's double down on the habits. There's a big reason why we chose these specific habits, because of how much value they have and how sustainable they can be.
Yes.
I mean, this is stuff you can do every day.
Yep.
Forever. Like we could have wrote a much more difficult challenge, a harder meal plan, all that, but that would have made everyone miserable, and no one has a tactic on how to do this after the challenge.
That's right.
And the whole point of this is to teach you a sustainable approach to this, and not just going as hard as possible to where you burn out and you never want to see a gym again.
That's right.
So anything else you want to touch on, like guidance-wise, post-challenge? Because I think keep using the meal plans. I think all the meal plans, if you've done multiple challenges, there's plenty of good meals at your disposal that don't take long to prep and are still good. Anything else you got?
I challenge you post-challenge to keep this up as long as you can. That may allow, you might want to loosen up your food choices or going out a little bit, but still make sensible choices that are in line with like the portion sizes that you have been eating. Like, this isn't the time to go smash a 56-ounce ribeye with a loaded baked potato and some apple pie for dessert. Like, that's not what we want. Your stomach may rebel a little bit.
Yeah.
So stay as close to on plan as you can in the nutrition area. Make the next best choice. But the big part is the walking. I implore you to keep this up and continue to expand it, right? Because over the summer and good weather times, we got an opportunity to really build a bank of fitness that'll pay off in the winter, because winter will reduce your activity a little bit. But if I want you to keep like a minimum step count of 7,500, and this idea of sweating every day. That fitness is not something that I just do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday and Thursday, or it's like every day I do something for my fitness. And that sweating every day could be part of your walking, okay? It's just being intentionally active every day, whether you walk into a gym or not. And the water, it's like, I think that's like a master, we call it a keystone habit. Like, that one should be pretty dialed in. Now, I will tell you, depending on activity level, like 75 to 90 ounces will probably get the job done. Like, there's nothing magic about 90 or a gallon. You know, some of it's based on body weight and size, but I feel comfortable saying that 75 should be like the floor. Like, that should be the lowest you go in regards to water consumption. So if you can follow the challenge just a little bit looser, but really, you know, still hold yourself accountable, I think that's going to give you the best opportunity until we do the next challenge. And then when you do that, if you have held on to some of the results you've got here and you've been sensible, the next challenge we do, you're really going to blow it out of the water.
You're just going to be rolling right in well to the next challenge if you just keep these going.
Yep.
So, it's the final week. We kind of talked about it on the last episode. You can be one of two people. You can double down, remember why you did this, and finish strong. Or you can throw the towel in early and let that sit with you for a little while.
Yeah.
So I challenge you to finish this thing strong. Remember why you committed to this challenge. You got one more week. Lean onto your coaches if you're struggling with anything specific, and just finish strong. All right. And we will help you with the post-challenge life. If you want to continue this, we will give you some more guidance on that and work with you on that. Aside from that, any closing remarks, Andy?
No, I mean, finish strong. That's the motto, right? So, yeah, you can choose to throw the towel in, but I don't think you're that type of person if you're actually taking the time to listen to this. So I challenge you to keep going and to finish strong.
Boom. We'll catch you later.
See ya.
Out.